Sing Wahila, work, health, joy. I like the Girl Scouts, I really do. I love their cookies. I like their chocolate bars. You know, they make really good food, really good stuff to eat, really great stuff to eat. Anyway, why am I going on about that? What even made me think of that? Anyway, yeah, more interesting is, we're on this series about media, and, it makes you think, because today's modern media connects up to the power centers and the ruling class doltery. But you say, well, did they have a Egyptian sun times during the pharaohs? Did they have did they have CBS during Caligula's time, so they could report on the the circus games and the tortures? Probably not. And but the one thing that you think when you think through all of history, and the one thing that's just absolutely clear, is that for the little guy, for the average guy, the organization of society is probably a net negative with the elites that they ended up with. Because it was like, they would kidnap you and you'd have to go to war, your family'd have to go to war, there'd be famines, they'd rob you. Every one of them taxed. Everyone always took from everybody. Even if they didn't do anything but spend the money. But the thing that really is interesting is like you take, for instance, the 30 Years' War. The elites. This is what the elites cooked up back then. Well, not as long as the 100 Years' War, and certainly in length a joke compared to the Intifada. The thing is about this is 20% of the German population were killed, and in some places 50%. And like I mentioned before in another iteration of the movie series, commentators said you could scarcely take a foot in either direction. He's in the forest, and not run into a hanging boy. So they're just like hanging people, and it was barbaric and really terrible. And you can just go all across the globe, and the ruling elites are constantly making things worse. And there's an interesting one is, how many people follow what happened in Japan, in the history of Japan. I mean, I don't mean the nearest history where the militarists completely demolished the place, and then and even after getting hit with 2 atom bombs, we're still trying to get everybody blown up, and keep the fight going. Well, you go earlier, and is the Shimibara Rebellion is a very interesting one. And leading up to that, they had lots of famines and what else? Ridiculously high taxes. They had the rebellion, and it got put down by the Tokugawa shogunate. And they, just to set an example, pretty much all of the Christian survivors, they killed them all. 35,000 men, women, and children. Beheadings, and then their favorite, scaldings, being scalded to death in a volcano. So one of the fun things that they did. Well, so this is just, you can just go through history, and then you say, then you're sort of taught as we get to modern times that we have media that will, fight for the little guy. They actually tell you that. Yeah, the media's fighting for the little guy. Well, let's just take one thing, because there's so many. It's like you say, like the debt ceiling right now, the latest thing. You'll hear it on the media, and they'll be saying, and if they don't raise the debt ceiling, it's going to be a catastrophe, a terrible catastrophe of the worst kind. It's going to be the end of the universe as we know it. Of course, that's ridiculous, because it's actually the inverse. Is the increasing of the money printing. It's the worst thing for the little guy. His savings and wages are constantly being demolished, while the elites do all these things and say, see, look what we're doing for you. But it's really what they're doing to you. And the thing is that the money flows to the elites. All the politicians come rolling in there, and they come leaving, they're just filthy rich. Why? Because that's the whole point of all of it. And the media is there to keep the illusion going. The debt ceiling is a really fun one, because they've been doing it for years, decades. It's a funny game. It's like if you went to the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain pulling the levers, he would be embarrassed by the debt ceiling game, because that's how ridiculous it is. Well, what always happens is they start the charade up, and you've got the media sort of training all the citizens to root for something that's really bad for them, and then the two-party, the duopoly, the Democrats and the Republicans, come out and play their game. And their game is, one of which, well, first of all, here's one simple little thing. If you think that, oh, what a tragedy if the debt ceiling isn't raised. Well, they make it they have a very large income on taxes into the federal government. And if they didn't print any money, and we would have to go back to the 2014 levels of spending. Well, last I recalled, the 2014 levels of spending were quite a bit. And it wasn't a crisis back then. You didn't have people in the streets crying for crackers. It's 2000. So it's all baloney anyway. The Republicans come out and they go, well, we have to respect the debt. See, they come across as the keepers of the flame. They pretend like they're trying to protect everybody from this money printing. Never mind the fact when they're running the thing, when they have, the presidency and the Congress and the Senate, and they have it all together, they print money like drunken sailors. They no more care than anything. But they understand one thing, is that money printing initially makes it seem like things are getting better, though technically they're just getting worse deep down under the surface. And they would just like the crashes to occur under the Democrats. Yeah, for their credit, the Democrats, they're crazy. They like printing money no matter who's in power. They can never get enough of it. And so the Republicans, and the Democrats square off. And the net point of this battle is to con everyone to start rooting, please raise the debt ceiling, please. Then at the end, just like every time before it, miraculously, as the deadline looms, we have come to a deal. We shall raise the debt ceiling. We've come to the deal. It's so hilarious. It's so ridiculous. It's like staged. It's theater. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so, and they tell the same story over and over. You would think that if you were lying all the time, that you would change some dimension of it to sort of hide it, change the name, say this can't be done because of that, just invent something, but But to tell this funny story over and over and over, it's hilarious. And to to really hit a peak about this, of how absurd it is. Of course, you've got the great comedians. Those guys they're always telling you, they're serious people. The comedians, they're there to really let you know how things work. These big primetime comedians, Yeah, I like when they're funny, but more and more they're funny in that they're just sort of echo chambers is their main comedy now. So anyway, I don't know why I mentioned them, but they're the most ridiculous when they tell this tale of woe. Well, now they're coming up. This is how ridiculous it's coming. Is they're saying, well, how are we going to do about the debt? And we got to deal with the debt ceiling. Well, how about if we come up with a $1 trillion platinum coin? Yeah, a $1 trillion platinum coin. See, we'll put that 1 ounce of platinum in the Federal Reserve's coffers, and that'll retire all that debt, It's like and when they need to, then the Fed can always sell the $1 trillion coin to someone. Someone will buy an ounce of platinum for $1 trillion, right? That's what's inferred. And these guys also say stuff like, the most ridiculous thing of all the things they say is they say something like, raising the debt ceiling shows that America is willing to pay its debts. It's willing to, it's not a deadbeat. It's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite of that. It's ridiculous. If America was not going to default on its debt, it wouldn't raise the debt ceiling. And it would make government spending, stay within its means. And they would pay down the debt. They would really do that. But they're not going to. They're going to default on the debt. And that's what raising the debt ceiling is defaulting on the debt. What does that mean? And the thing is okay, pretend your grandmother takes out a loan for a house. And now the payment comes due, the first payment comes due. And she says, you really need to lend me some more money, because if you don't lend me money, I won't be able to make the payment on the house. And they go, so lend me the money so I can show you that I'm not a deadbeat and I'm good for my debt. That's what the government does. This is what the media rubber stamps. And now it comes to $1 trillion coin. Well, why don't they take it to its logical conclusion? Don't have a $1 trillion coin. Instead, why don't you have a $1 trillion turd, a $5 trillion turd? No, a $30 trillion turd, so that we can square everything up. And it'll be a big red and blue turd, and they can shine it up, and they can put it in the Federal Reserve's coffers, and you can just go, see, we're making good on our debt. The $30 trillion turd. And then we could go look to media and then have the media explain, this turd represents the culmination of greatness that America aspires to. Only in a country like America can a turd be worth $30 trillion. And then the comedians can start repeating it word for word, and we'll have the complete circle, I love media. They're hilarious. Sing Wahila, work, health, joy. And I will sing around the campfire. Woo! Sing around the campfire.